Hi, and welcome to another edition of Between Two Plants. I'm your host, Ian Fife, and our guest today is Marvin Shell. We're excited to have Marvin here. Marvin is part of our aftermarket team here at West Tech, and he manages a team of 8 field service technicians who have a combined experience of more than 50 years. Uh, Marvin has been with West Tech for 8 years. And Marvin, welcome to our show today.
Hey, thank you. Happy to be here.
Marvin, let's start out with the basics. Tell me what a field service technician is and what your team does.
The field service technician is the person you're going to see in the field. They're going to come help you do startup, commissioning, sample collection. They will be there to help you to get your plant up and running, to maintain it running. Anything you need, they'll be there.
Tell me a little bit about what commissioning is and how your team would support with that.
Yeah, so commissioning, we're going to go in and we're going to start it at the beginning, right? The installation portion. We're going to make sure the nuts and bolts are tight. We're going to make sure it's installed to the spec that it needs to be. We'll go through and make sure the equipment is rotating, operating correctly. We'll do any major testing needed. And by the end of it, we'll make sure that you have a running piece of equipment.
Marvin, you mentioned warranty resolution. Tell me a little bit more about what that might typically entail and how your team helps resolve those issues.
Yeah, as you know, everything's not always perfect in the field. It works on paper, and sometimes we have got to go make adjustments. Those adjustments can be as big as putting in a new fabricated piece, welding up pieces that may have broken or a weld may have broken. It could also be just going and setting a skimmer arm. So it's pretty broad there. We'll do everything we can to make sure that that equipment is what you want and it's running the way you want.
Marvin, I'm sure you and your experience have been to a lot of different sites, visited with a lot of different customers, been in probably some situations, especially if it's resolving warranty or if the customer is frustrated for some reason. Tell me how important communication is in this role.
Yeah, so 90% of every problem can be solved with communication, right? I have a plant, and this is just a strange example, but I had a plant recently that wanted a speed sensor for a hydrodock. Okay, if you imagine a speed sensor, you would think it's the part that's actually collecting the speed. Well, what they actually wanted was the meter in the panel. So we had actually sent out the speed sensor, and got a frustrated customer, called us back, and hey, this isn't correct. We didn't get the right piece. And we just couldn't for the life of us figure it out, right? So we got on a phone call and he actually held the piece he needed up to the camera during this video call. And right then we knew exactly what we needed. Just closing those bounds. We might speak the same language, but we don't use the same terms, right? We need to make sure if we can pictures are sometimes better than an email. Send us a picture and we will make sure that you get the right thing.
How does West Tech make sure they communicate? Obviously, we have equipment with a lot of parts and pieces. What are some of the ways that West Tech communicates to our customers to make sure that they know, um, what to do in a situation where they have a component fail, or if something does go awry? What does West Tech do to help with those situations?
Most of the field techs, in fact, all the field techs that are on your site, they'll leave you a phone number and a card. Your O&M manual will have a phone number. Just reach out to us. We'll make it happen. We'll get you set on the correct piece that you need or who you need to talk to. We may not know all the answers, but we know somebody that does.
Now, you mentioned an O&M manual. Maybe for the viewers who aren't exactly sure what that acronym is, tell me what an O&M manual is.
An O&M is an operation and maintenance manual. It is a great resource that'll have everything you need in it. It's going to have everything from the installation all the way down to what do I do after a year, right? 'Cause after a year, there's a service that needs to happen. Most people don't realize that you should be taking a clarifier down every year and just doing an inspection, right? That's huge. Changing oil, everything will be in that manual that is provided with your equipment.
So you mean like that manual that I get with my lawnmower and I chuck it into the drawer and then I forget about it and never really maintain it? Should I be referencing that?
Oh, of course, of course. And actually in your manual there's a great parts list. We give you drawings, we give you a parts list that actually helps with that communication quite a bit. It's very important that you keep a hold of these O&M manuals. And if you forget it, well, give us a call. We have digital O&M manuals we can send you.
Marvin, sometimes you were contacted or your team is contacted by a customer who has an issue. How important is it that you talk to the people in the field that are experiencing that problem versus a manager or someone else who might just be passing along or communicating, even through a one of our sales reps or someone that's conveying the information that's not firsthand?
I so in my group alone, we actually now have a rule that we call every Thursday or Friday. It is so important that we talk to the contact that's on site, to the guy that is experiencing this problem, because we never know what that chain of communication was. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. And in fact, we find it most times that we get on site and the problem is completely different, right? So having a direct line to the mechanic on the ground or the engineer on the ground there, it's super important for us.
So, what warrants a phone call and a phone conversation versus a trip out to site to get eyes on it?
Yeah, so it's going to be the severity of the problem, right? If we can't solve it over the phone, then we're going to want to see if we can come out and just help you with it. A lot of things we can solve over the phone. I spend a lot of my time actually taking phone calls every day. We will solve as much as we can over the phone, but there's always a point, right? If it's something that's going to require physical disassembly or something that's on a larger scale, we'll then have to take a trip out.
So, you and the 8 people on your team, are they the only people for West Tech that do this type of field service calls and coming to customer sites when there is an issue?
There is other people. Our account managers are really great. Our Salesforce, our RSMs are really great. There is a whole bunch of people at West Tech that will take your call and help you in the same way.
Marvin, you're part of the aftermarket team, and so I certainly expect a good chunk of what your team focuses on is supporting aftermarket business. What are services that your team offers to a customer that's above and beyond just us supplying a new part?
My team's actually involved in installation and retrofit. So we'll actually go to your site and put in a brand new clarifier. We'll fix whatever you have on site. We'll put in parts. We'll inspect your equipment. We try to do it all. We try to be the one stop shop to help you from A to B and make sure that you have a plant that's up and running.
So you're saying that your team could be involved in anything as small as replacing a few valves or a motor, all the way up to installing an entire clarifier mechanism
Yep, we have it. Our team will do all that for sure,
and everything in between, I
and
assume, right?
everything in between. Yep.
Let's talk about this concept of clarifier retrofits. West Tech is known for having a very robust drive mechanism that can last a long time. How often is your team involved in replacing either West Tech drive units or other competitor drive units?
So that's an interesting question. I have had a few years to play with this, right? We've done a ton of retrofits and installs. We actually end up installing our equipment on a competitor's mechanism more than we replace our own drives. It's been a very strange going into it, you would expect that they're going to call you and you're just going to replace your own equipment. That's not the path that we've gone down. We actually it's probably 2 to 1.
I imagine it's not as easy to replace a competitor's drive as our own because we don't have the drawings and it may not fit up exactly to the competitor's equipment. So, how does your team deal with managing the complexity of replacing a competitor's drive unit?
So I actually have a gentleman on my team that is he's 25 years of experience, I believe. He's been here a long time. And he will actually go out and physically measure your drive and bring back those measurements. The team internally will then design a drive that will fit on your cage or on your mechanism. And it's 9 times out of 10 it's a drop-in replacement.
your team is actually going out and overseeing and making sure that those drive units get installed correctly, and so that the customer doesn't have to really do anything, correct?
Yes, yes. So essentially, we do everything from the crane to the manpower. It's a pretty simple process. We'll start about 4 weeks ahead of time. We'll start scheduling with you. You'll receive your drive. I try to make it to your site within a week or two of your drive being there. We'll send a job box to site. We'll send uh, just 3 to 4 techs, right, with a lead and 2 laborers. We'll have the crane arrive. Everything will be there. You'll unhook the power for us, and the next thing you know, on Friday, you'll have a new drive ready to start up.
How long would a customer expect their mechanism to be down while the drive replacement is happening?
So we try to shoot for 3 days downtime, and that's typically cut to 2 days downtime. It's a quick process when you know what you're doing, right? So it's one of those that we have spent many years dialing in this process. So there is limited downtime.
I imagine that with all of the cranes and the power tools and the heavy lifting and all that, that safety is an important consideration. How do you deal with ensuring that your team, as well as the customer equipment and all that, stays safe and protected?
Yeah, so I actually have a dedicated site safety supervisor on my team. His entire job is to make sure that we everything we're doing out there safe. I also have my team has a ton of training. They are every year put through rigorous safety training. We're making sure that we're top tier, and what you're going to get on site is a safe, fast installation.
What are some of the biggest challenges your team runs into in your day-to-day work?
Honestly, it's communication again, right? The communication is has to be flawless in something like this, right? It's a long planning procedure. It's a bunch of steps that have to be executed perfectly. Honestly, it's chaos, and you're just trying to make sure that that chaos is as structured as possible, because no two plants are the same, and we deal with such a wide variety of industries. It's always something different. It's what makes it fun.
Does your team work with the local plant operators and maintenance people to train them on how to correctly operate and maintain the equipment?
Oh yeah. Yep. Maintenance is key. Maintenance is key. Especially when, 5 minutes could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's just one bearing that's missed greasing that causes massive plant outages. And we see it over and over again. So we try to push maintenance as much as we can.
What is the typical lead time to schedule a technician to come out to site, whether that's to evaluate an existing problem or to help install a replacement piece of equipment? What kind of a lead time, or how much time in advance does a customer need to give notice to appropriately schedule the right people to be out there?
Right. So like everyone, we have our busy seasons, right? That everybody tries to get all their work done from May to August. That is when everybody's pushing. So in those time frames, we're about 3 to 4 weeks, right? We're pretty busy, but outside of that, we try to shoot for 2 weeks.
So, Marvin, you've talked about how communication is paramount in supporting the customer. Outside of communication, what things does your team do to ensure that each site visit is successful?
So one of the key points is we want to make sure the problem is actually the problem. A lot of times, you can have multiple things that can cause the same vibration in a motor, they're the same vibration in a drive, and we need to make sure that what we're going to do out there is going to correct the problem. I don't want to take extra trips to site, right? I'm sure nobody else does either. And if the problem is bigger than itself, we bring it up first. That's kind of something that we try to be upfront about. I was on a site not too long ago and just replacing a pinion stack, nice and easy. Well, the site actually sandblasted their drive, and of course didn't use our recommendations of, wrapping their drive to protect it. And they were leaking oil through the bottom seal of their bearing. And unfortunately, this drive was already 25 years old, so rebuilding it is kind of one of those washes, right? You either spend all this money to rebuild it or you just buy a new drive. Even though that's a very uncomfortable conversation to come up to them and say, "Hey, you just bought all these parts. We can't do anything because if we put these parts in, you're just going to leak oil out. You need a new drive mentality." That's a difficult conversation, but that's a conversation that should always be had in face to face if possible.
So really a measure twice, cut once mentality, making sure we're actually addressing the real issue at hand and not just slapping a band-aid on something.
Oh, for sure. We One of the funny phrases we say is, "We hope we don't see you again soon." Right? I don't want to be out there in 3 weeks. I want this thing to run for you for 20 more years.
Marvin, you've been out in the field a lot. You've seen a lot of things. What's your best piece of advice for customers?
5 minutes can save hundreds of thousands of dollars. The problems that we see a lot are lubrication related or maintenance related. Just taking that time, reading that O&M manual, and addressing these small little issues like changing the oil after your 500 hours, or changing oil once a year even. Those small things can make this piece of equipment last 10, 15, 20 years longer.
What would you say to customers who maybe are understaffed and don't feel like they have the manpower or the resources to even do the 5 minute simple things?
Call me, I'll come help. We have a team that will come help you.
Marvin, does Westech offer service and maintenance contracts?
We do. And we are in the process of building that up even more, trying to figure out and get the resources there to make these ironclad surface or service contracts.
What are the benefits to customers by entering into a service agreement?
You're going to have a trained, qualified technician to actually come out and do this work. You're going to have discounts on parts. You're going to have a prioritized service because we do have that contract with you and we want to make sure we fulfill that.
Marvin, typically in our industry, a field services technician is, and it's even also written into specifications that their responsibilities are to inspect equipment that has been installed, to make sure that it was installed properly, and then to support with startup and commissioning services, and maybe not much beyond that. Uh, how is your team differentiated than maybe a typical field service team?
Yeah, so why we can do all of that, we have evolved our field services team to handle turnkey services. So we will do the installation. We'll make sure it's done start to finish. We'll do it fast because we have this knowledge. We've done hundreds of them, and it makes it a seamless process for the customer. We have a lot to offer in that because we sit with these engineers that are designing this, right? We know exactly how they're designed, why they're designed this way. We have the ability to access West Tech inventory quickly. Funny story on that. I actually had a drive come in, or we had a drive come in about what was it, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they needed to drive in 4 weeks. So quick turnaround on a drive like this, right? And the aftermarket team did an amazing job, and they were able to actually find a drive that was on another customer site, but they didn't need it for 16 weeks, and actually reroute that drive. And the engineers made sure everything bolted up great. Just having that access to inventory on a turnkey project is key. Whether it's, parts that are missing, we overnight parts all the time because the customer ordered this, but they actually needed 3 or 4 more parts. That's things that could keep normal contractors stuck for a week or two, and nobody wants to be down that long.
What would be the best way for a customer to know what option would be better for them, a refurbishment versus a replacement drive?
Yeah, so once again, just reach out to us. Reach out to your RSM or reach out to your account manager or your rep on site. They'll be able to help you in that.
I imagine you'd probably send someone out to site to inspect the drive unit and provide maybe an assessment of here are the options and here's what our recommendation might be and things of that nature.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we will send somebody out to site to do a full inspection. You'll get a nice report typed up. They'll look at everything as long as it's not running, right? They'll look at everything they can, and you'll get a report at the end to kind of dictate which way you go.
Well, Marvin, it's been great having you on the show today. Sounds like you have a great team that supports our customers in many different ways. Thanks for your time and for being here on Between Two Plants.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been fun.